A very good morning to you all. It is my pleasure to stand here in front of you to speak about the topic, which is mobile markets in Africa, their key challenges and as well as their opportunities. And to start with, first of all, I would like to thank the government for their continued support for enabling us to further progress our digital transformation agenda. I would also like to thank a career community, a global telecom club established in 2008 as the organizers of this global career community, and special thanks as well for them allowing this meeting to be in Zanzibar, in our beautiful country of Tanzania, for the first time, and become very successful as today being one and our first day of this prestigious event. So this exclusive wholesale telecom operator and service provider event have successfully enabled partners to meet more than 200 wholesale members representing telecom operators and telco ecosystem partners, but all network with peers and colleagues in a private, relaxed, and exclusive community environment. Now back to the topic. Africa, with its rich tapestry of culture, languages, landscapes, provide a unique canvas for mobile technology to weave a transformative magic. In recent years, we've witnessed an extraordinary surge in mobile penetration across the continent, here landing unprecedented opportunities for innovation, growth, and societal advancement. First and foremost, let's address the critical challenge that marks our path forward, which is infrastructure and capacity, infrastructure and connectivity. In our journey towards digitally connected Africa, we encounter the pressing need for robust and reliable infrastructure. While our urban centers may boast impressive connectivity, our rural region often find themselves lagging behind. So bridging this digital divide is imperative if we are to unlock the full potential of mobile technology for every corner of our continent. The second one is affordability and accessibility. So despite the commendable strides, in affordability, smartphones and data plans remain luxury for many. Ensuring that mobile technology is accessible to all socioeconomic strata is our pivotal challenge. So this entails not only making devices more affordable, but also addressing the costs of data and services. On the area of investment, we are investing over $600 million to modernize our mobile network and to further ensure we can drive data and mobile penetration so that the marginalized are connected for the empowerment of our people and of our economy. We're also launching advanced solutions such as IoT and cybersecurity to cater to our corporate sectors. Also, we have regulatory and policy frameworks. So as the business in the mobile sector, we must navigate through a complex web of regulations, licenses, and policies, harmonizing regulatory frameworks across countries and fostering an environment conducive to innovation is paramount. It's with understanding all these challenges that Tigo Zantel through Tigo Pesa is currently connecting more than 16 million subscribers with more than 7 million connected through Tigo Pesa service. Now to the opportunities. So I'd like to turn our attention to the boundless opportunities that await our collective endeavors. Digital inclusion and financial services. So mobile technology emerges as a powerful instrument for financial inclusion. With the advent of mobile money platforms, we have witnessed the transformation of how individuals manage their finances, even in areas with limited access to traditional banking infrastructures. The other, opportunity is innovative solutions for local challenges. So Africa challenges are unique, and mobile technology offer an opportunity to address them in a groundbreaking ways. From healthcare solutions to agriculture tools, we are witnessing a wave of homegrown innovations that hold the potential to uplift lives across the continent. Another opportunity is youth and education. Our continent boasts of, boasts a youth and dynamic population, and mobile technology can be a catalyst for education and skill development. E-learning platforms and e-educational apps are revolutionizing the way knowledge is disseminated, providing new opportunities for growth and development. Another area of opportunity is entrepreneurship and job creation. In this area, the mobile sector itself stands as a significant source of employment and entrepreneurship opportunities. From app developers to mobile service providers, the ecosystem is ripe with potential for economic growth and as well as job creation. So, in conclusion, the Africa mobile market stands at a crossroads, poised between challenges and opportunities. So, by addressing infrastructure gaps, promoting digital inclusion, and fostering an environment conducive to innovation, we can unlock the full potential of mobile technology to uplift communities, drive economic growth, and create a brighter future for all Africans. So together, let us seize this moment and work towards the future where every African can benefit from the immense potential of mobile technology. And this was just a start of interesting discussion, and I believe our panelists will share more details in the next few minutes. So, like the Honorable Minister said earlier, now that you are in Zanzibar, please extend your, if you can, extend your holidays during the weekend and explore further opportunities found in this idyllic, in this home of idyllic beaches, balmy weather, and warm tropical waters. Wishing you all the best and see you soon in our next meeting with fruitful results ongoing.
I would like to start. I have people who are quite specialized in the industry and people who are very senior in the industry. And with that always comes insights that are quite valuable or invaluable. What's the right word? So please, let's pay attention to them. I would like to start with a brief introduction, just 1 minute, one minute each. And I can start with Rakesh.
Thank you, Kadambara. I'd love to have you on my right side. My name is Rakesh Kukreja. I'm founder and CEO for ISAT Africa Group of Companies. We have a business model of connecting the unconnected, which possibly you have heard from various different stakeholders. But the only difference in our business model is we work very closely with existing mobile operators, existing ecosystem, and we enhance that coverage, which means we work with existing licensee in the country, we work with the government, we work with the regulatory, we work with equipment manufacturer, we work with local community to see how we can work towards the noble cause. At present, we have our network being expanded in few countries that includes East Africa, Central and West Africa. And we love to see how we can assist the country where we originated from, which is Tanzania, which is close to our heart. And that's why we love to see how we can use all our learnings even in Tanzania. But thanks for, it's very nice to be part of the such sessions and good to be here.
Okay, and then I'll go to my right, Chanda. Chanda, sorry. Use the mic.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Chandrahas Rana. I head the business development for Bankai Group. We are basically a conglomerate since last 35 years, covering international carrier services, one of the biggest network, riding over more than 190 plus operators, covering from North America to Europe to central part of the world till Pacific. On technology side, our technology company Panamax is a global leader when it comes to telco solutions, covering revenue assurance, fraud management. And then we have our own mobile money company with the fintech solution named Mobifin, already deployed with more than 100 plus customers globally. Overall, our headquarters is in New York. And when it comes to our philosophy is, of course, connecting the unconnected is one of the motto. But beyond that, we want to enhance the user experience. We want to be on our toes to bring the innovative solutions to the markets. Those are kind of, we call them developing markets or underdeveloped markets, but and to bring them to on par with the developed world. And it's a pleasure to be over here. And I hope that it would be very insightful session both ways.
Thank you very much. My name is Kevin Kaburu. I'm based in Nairobi. I look after wholesale for China Mobile International. China Mobile International is a subsidiary of China Mobile Group, which is today the largest operator in the world in terms of mobility. It's a pleasure to be back in Zanzibar. We were here again last year, and we are happy to again see new faces in Zanzibar, connect with new people. It's good to see Rakesh as well. I think for today's conversation, the aim we hope to bring and the experience we hope to share is how we are shifting our mobile operation company into a technology company. That has been the theme in many conversations around the world today, how you can reduce the dependency on your network being just for mobile, but rather be a technology provider. And so I'm very honored to be here and to share our experience in that area. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Mambo vipi? Kumbe Waswahili wenzangu. All right, so my name is Haidari Chamshama. I'm actually here to represent my CEO, Angelica Pesha. I think you can see her photo right there. She was supposed to be here, but unfortunately, she has been unable to be here with us. So what I do is I manage Tigo Pesa corporate businesses and also different strategic partnerships. As you all know that right now, Tigo has two verticals. So there's a telecom part, and also there's a mobile financial services part, which is Tigo Pesa. And right now, Tigo Pesa is a full-fledged financial service provider in the country. So I'm glad to be here. Thanks.
Asante sana. And my name is Kadambara. I work for Tigo. I had wholesale, second biggest operator in Tanzania. The market share is only about 2%. We're doing a lot, and we'll be sharing through this conversation. We're doing a very, very big investment to make sure, as the Honorable Minister said, we actually focus on connecting the marginalized. This is a very key area for us. So we're investing about $600 million to make sure that we can actually do that. And we're doing that, and we'll be done, I think, within a year. I'm so happy to be sitting here with some of my greatest partners, and then also to see the familiar faces, Zanlink Liquid, and people who support us, Comnet, on a day-to-day. Wingu, we're very honored that you have made it here today. So today we're addressing the mobile space, and we really try to contain it to just the mobile space. How the mobile space has actually evolved in Africa, the opportunities that it has arose, how it has transformed the economy, how it has transformed us telcos, what percentage of people are actually connected, because, you know, we brag a lot, like, yes, we've connected people, but what does that actually really look like in terms of connectivity? What kind of connectivity do they have? You know, are they included in the financial inclusion sector? Are they still excluded? How are we addressing these challenges? So this will be our key focus area today. There are some gaps, obviously. We'll also look at some of the evolving technologies like 5G. What opportunities has 5G presented? And again, please do interrupt us and ask us any questions as we go along. Now, I would like to start with Rakesh. We have spoken about mobility and how it has evolved, but I think it's important to start with the challenges, because when we talk about the challenges, we also talk about the solution. We have a very big chunk. Tanzania would say data penetration maybe is 30-35%. These numbers depend on who is saying them. Mobile data, that is. But then with voice, the number is different and it's arguable. But how many people have we actually connected, you know, to the rural areas? And if we've connected them, how are you using? The Honorable Minister today spoke about power. Have we done anything to address power, or are we just focusing on connectivity? If you can share some used cases, because in isolating the marginalized community, we actually ostracize them from the economy, from the evolution of technology. So what are the challenges that you've seen, and what, maybe just briefly, but more importantly, what have you done, or what are some of the use cases that you can share with us today?
Thank you, Kadambara. I will be giving the examples of some of the neighboring countries just to make sure we don't conflict with somebody else's interest in the country here. 4 years back, we did a project along with DFID that included implementation of innovative ideas in the rural areas, and also to do a study that what works and what doesn't work. One of the key parameters that we were supposed to analyze was, is internet a mandatory thing? Or how does internet impact the life of a common person in the rural areas? So during this, we brought the innovative ideas that how we can bring low capex, low OPEX sites, so that not only the affordability of the site should be less, but also it should be tempting for operators, because for operators today to run the sites in rural area is not the money. Tigo has 600 million, but then it is always a cause of concern that is it worth spending so much operating expenses? Imagine in South Sudan, to put the fuel in the genset in rural area, it costs them $4 per liter, which is almost 4 times higher than what you can buy in the market. If those are the operating expenses, how do we bring down those expenses? So those were on technology side that we managed. We brought the renewable energy, we brought local community part of it, and we brought teaching to the local community to see how they can take care of those sites. Proudly, I can say that after 28 months of installation, those sites have never gone down. We never had any vandalism and a lot of other learnings. So the first was technological part of the innovation. And second was why you think the user penetration in the rural areas is not high. And I think that's where the interest of all the stakeholders starts coming in. We were told by the stakeholders that it is the subsidy of the handsets which is the most important part, because generally rural area people don't like to spend and the affordability is less. And we found out of 5-6 different parameters, subsidy of the phone was the last. But this is how marketing, when it is done from central place, thinking that we know the country, we go wrong. We started bringing more and more different features to see how and which parameter works for them. And first was how we can align with them so that the community feels it is part of them. So we went back to community. We installed the towers very closer to community. We gave them the assurance that they are part of it and their grandchildren will also get all the advantages. They became part of the stakeholders so that they made a decision. They give us the security from their own people, which means they also contribute to the success of that. So whatever we are trying to generate a revenue, some part of revenue goes back to community. So it's not always building the roads and other stuff is important. It is also to make sure that we guide them correctly. One of the stuff which has worked very high was the use of internet. Most of the community people realized and thought that internet means a social media, you can send the pictures and you can do the networking. But when we gave them some of the applications, which was e-commerce, which was one of the great stuff that happened. And the second was the GPS. How do we use the Google kind of mapping to allow people to trace them? Because if there is no road, there was no e-commerce, there was no communication, and hence the economic activities were not there. So the mobile money, telecommunication, all these started bringing the economic activities, and on top of it, people could come down and do the commerce with them. These were experiences of user penetration. And thereafter, everything happens in the similar way that happens in other part of the world. Africa rural is not very different. For example, if you see the literacy rate of Tanzania, if it is above 95%, I'm not saying we need to learn the foreign language as well to communicate. That means people understand, they communicate very well, and they have a common understanding in the whole country. So literacy is not a problem. All what was required is how do I take the technology and the information and use of internet, which helps the person on the street. And I think that has helped us to increase the penetration and to bring the technology closer to people and make it self-sustainable. And after 2 years, all these sites that I was talking about are profitable in commercial terms as well.
Thank you so much, Rakesh. Maybe just on that trajectory. So 2 things that I would like to pick up from you: mobile money and some of the application, but specifically mobile money. But then also, how do we get connectivity and make sure that the people, especially the marginalized community, can actually use it, and how do they use it to empower themselves? For example, that mama ntilie. How are we empowering that mama ntilie? Now, I know China Mobile specifically does a lot on device, and so I'll just like maybe devices. I'll just like maybe to just briefly to invite Kevin to talk about in that area what you guys have done to make sure we can connect these people, and if there's maybe options that you have on device financing or whatever initiatives that you're doing.
First, I'd like to echo Rakesh's comments on the cost of rural area connectivity. It is indeed true that while devices are a factor, they are not the only factor. However, especially in more developed markets like China, where we started our device rollout, we were faced with a challenge. In 2016, we had about 400 million customers still using our 2G network. And we needed to transition these customers to 4G network because it was not very operationally efficient to run both 2G, 3G, 4G, and then a 5G network. So we were faced with a challenge, and out of that challenge, we came up with an innovation. We set up a dedicated company called China Mobile Device Company. That its sole mandate was to actually manufacture, assemble, and ship low-end smartphone devices. So we started as our own fast consumer in China, and fast forward that 5 years later, we realized that this is a gap that many other mobile operators have across the world. And for the last 6.5 years, we've been shipping low-end smartphone devices across the world. We're speaking of a 4G phone around $35, $40, 5G phone maybe about, we're trying to bring the cost down as well. And we believe that with this kind of innovation, operators will be able to access more marginalized areas, have more penetration in the market, and complement some of the efforts that are going in to connect the unconnected. So we are already working with a few operators in Africa on this model, and we have seen that if you actually lower the cost of a device, then the barrier of entry is lower. We looked at one of the operators we're working with on this. So their user traffic was always increasing. Their operational budget was increasing. Every year, the operational budget was increasing, but they were not seeing the return in revenue increasing commensurately. So what they did then was to factor in a cost of subsidizing this smartphone at a rate where Mama Mboga, we call them Mama Mboga in Kenya, a rate where the Mama Mboga can pay daily for the smartphone, not a one-time purchase. So with 20 shillings, which would be $20, 0.2 cents, for example, paying for a smartphone becomes more accessible to someone like that. Within a year, you can own the smartphone, and you can also have learned to use that smartphone. So that showed almost a 18% increase in revenue for that mobile operator in case. And I believe such initiatives can be borrowed and utilized even here in Tanzania, where there's still a very low data penetration rate. There's even more schemes like device financing, equipment financing, and all these kind of models can be utilized in this home market.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kevin. This is very exciting to me. You know, real, tangible initiatives that have actually been done to address the market. I mean, think about a smartphone that's actually smart. It's the big screen, only 35. Did you say 30, 35? Yeah, dollars. I mean, this is quite. That's my next move. No, but really, if we actually get to that level, how do we connect them? How do we make sure there's efficiency? And then we address the power issues. Then we can actually start truly addressing, and when we talk about connecting the unconnected, the marginalized communities. So I would like now to invite Haidari to speak about the second aspect, was mobile money. What are some of the changes that you've made in that space? Because Rakesh started and preempted and mentioned, you know, apps that can actually help the mamantilie and enhance her supply chain, or rather create value within her supply chain. What have you done in that space? How has it evolved? What does financial inclusion maybe look like now?
Okay, so I think as a company, we have done a lot in terms of seeing how mobile financial services have a positive impact to our customers. I totally agree with Rakesh and Kevin. I think you're talking about the device financing, and you suggest that we utilize it. I think we have started already in Tanzania, but we have done a lot. As I said earlier, if I take a case study of Tigo Pesa, we are right now a fully fledged financial service provider. So we have done a lot in terms of empowering people in the country by coming up with relevant product and services. So for example, right now, to show that how we empower people, we have come up with the saving and loan services. So one of the very difficult thing initially was for people to have access to even savings, because it needed them to have a bank account to be able to be saving. So right now, with mobile financial services, we have special products, specifically Tigo Pesa, that we call Kibubu. So if you're not familiar, Kibubu is like a piggy bank, whereby we are now exposing the financial literacy to the people that they should be able to be saving. So they are using that Kibubu for them to be able to save, and then we are giving them a little bit of interest so that at least they should see the impact of whatever saving that they do. But also accessibility to loans. This was also another problem, because it needed, for the traditional banking sector, for you to be able to get a loan, there's a lot of processes. Yeah, but for now, what we do in mobile financial services, specifically Tigo and Tigo Pesa, because we have data, customers are transacting. So we are using the same data. We're employing artificial intelligence to learn and understand consumer behavior, their spending behavior, so that we can be able to score and give them loans immediately. They don't have to be having these normal processes that they need. Somebody has to see the collateral and so forth. But another empowerment that we have done is in terms of employment. You know, in mobile financial services, the primary channel to provide our services is through the so-called wakala. Yeah. So for Tigo alone, we have more than 150 wakalas, which means agents. So this means that we have given them direct employment. So there are some of the people that sustain their living specifically to be just wakalas. But whatever that we're trying to do here is to see that the financial inclusion in the country goes very high. So the latest report we have from FinScope, which was published this year, our financial inclusion penetration rate right now stands at 75%. And yeah, this is an increment of 11%, because from 2017 up to 2023, this year, we have increased our penetration by 11%. So if you look at this trajectory, and if we go with this run rate of 11%, that means we'll be at 86% by 2029. Is it good enough? I know you are clapping, but it's not good enough. We need to have more penetration. So what are we doing to do that? One of the main challenge in terms of penetration in financial inclusion is availability of network infrastructure. That is one of the main challenge. I know you're talking about the devices, but then you can have devices that if you don't have a network, those devices won't work. Yeah. So I give kudos to the government of Tanzania, because right now under UCSAF, so the government of Tanzania has partnered with all MNOs in the country, and they have signed a contract right now that there'll be an extra 758 sites that will be built. And out of the 758 sites, 262 will be built by Tigo. A very round of applause for Tigo. Yeah, so that means once we have this infrastructure, we'll be able to get more financial inclusion penetration. And then now will come the issue of devices, which of course is another challenge, which I think has already been discussed here by my colleagues.
Thank you so much, Haidari. So you touched on the unbankable community. I mean, I think out of this, obviously, M-Pesa is one of the, I think, the biggest, without dispute, innovation that has come in Africa in the last 10 years. But one of the biggest contribution that mobile money has done is that we had a very big chunk of the community that was unbankable. And everybody has a different number, but for me, I actually think it's a little bit more than 90%, maybe 91%. That is unbankable in the traditional means of banking. And I actually think that number is much higher if you look at the statistics between CRDB, NMB, and NBC, who's actually banked versus the population. So that is the one area where mobile money has really taken care of the unbankable community. We have a much bigger bankable community now. I actually don't know the number, but I do know that 70% of our GDP is now passing through mobile money, which is just something else because it means that it's being taxed. So it's empowering us. We can then build taxes, and then maybe also we can build roll, and then also maybe we can address the power issue, which the government is going, and extend the power to, again, to the communities that really and truly need it. So I would like to progress further and start talking about 5G. And I mean, we've had a lot of transformation with 5G, a lot of opportunities that have come up with 5G. I would very briefly like us to touch on IoT because I think it's still far removed from us, but we cannot exclude it from this conversation. And with that, I would like to invite Chanda to briefly speak about that and maybe some of the use cases where you've seen.
Thank you. Adding to our esteemed panel, I will jump to IoT after that. See, if you see Africa today, the population of Africa is somewhere around 1.4 billion. The total economy size, overall Africa, is somewhere around 2.6 to 2.9 trillion US dollar. The realistic and the closest prototype that Africa has is India. 1.45 billion people, somewhere around 3.7 to 3.9 trillion economy. But where I see the difference between whole Africa, yes, Africa in totality, it's very tough to define. West Africa is a bit different, Northern Africa is a bit different, Eastern part isn't different when it comes to technological advancement, when it comes to digital inclusion, when it comes to digital index, whatever we call them. Okay. So what I feel is, as Tigo, friend from Tigo has mentioned, that internet and connectivity is most important. So what has India done differently in the last 5-7 years? What I feel is the monumental moment was 2016 or 17, when our prime minister or our government took an initiative that everybody, at least 90% of population, should have a bank account, formal bank account. Mobile money was there. So what has happened after that? A new MNO came with the name of Jio. For 2 years or 3 years, internet was free, totally free. I don't know how they could manage that, but they managed it very well. Internet penetration in India increased from 28% to today 90%. My father, who could not write his checkbook in 2016 or 17, by 2021 or 2022, or rather today, 8 hours of his time is on this. He doesn't care about me, my mother. Okay. This is other part. So what I feel is somewhere, either it's government, somewhere some big billionaire, or society needs to contribute to the digital inclusion. After that, what has happened? 2017 or 18, Government of India launched UPI, Unified Payment Interface. Free payments. When mobile money is run by operator, there is cost to it. Of course, operators are spending money, they need to recover there. But government needs to take initiative where every citizen of that particular country should have access to real-time digital payments. Last month, India, with 1.2 billion mobile subscriber, with more than 1.1 billion plus internet subscriber, last month the total number of real-time digital payments were 10 billion a month. That was somewhere around 175 billion US dollar a month. In totality, it's 2 trillion US dollar real-time digital payments, and our GDP size is 3.8 to 4 trillion. So 50% of the payments, transactions. Now again, Africa, when you talk about mobile money, yes, Kenya is a classic example where digital inclusion is very high, but still 70% of Africa, when you talk about mobile money, it's cash in and cash out. When it comes to cash in and cash out, it is not real digital money. The real digital money is when a merchant, a tea hawker, 300 kilometers from Darul Salam will accept taking payments directly from your mobile phone. India, today, more than 18 million small and medium enterprises or small shops, they take money via mobile. No cost to the subscriber, no cost to the merchant. Okay. So what I feel is Mobile money, we need to think beyond standardized cash in and cash out. We need to bring more use cases, merchant banking, enterprise banking. Once that would be there, Africa is a huge market, huge, very huge market. Now, sorry, what do you want to say? Okay, so I will take IoT next round if you want. Okay, okay, so I will find.
So thank you so much. I mean, these statistics for India, it's just something else. And I hear now the average usage is like 20 gig per person or household, depends on how you look at it, but quite fascinating. So maybe, I don't know if, Kevin, if you want to share what that looks like in Kenya in terms of, because it's shared quite a bit of India, in terms of how the ecosystem actually works for mobile money in Kenya, how extended it is. I know for East and Central Africa, it's the most advanced, followed by Tanzania.
No, interesting insight there from India. I think closer home in Kenya, what we've seen happen a lot is the mobile operators take an initiative of making digital payments easier for the consumer and the businesses. So 3 years ago, they launched, Safaricom launched a mobile app. They call it M-Pesa Super App. So where you can make all your digital transactions, you can make pay for your water, electricity, you can pay for your airtime, all in the same app. And this is again to add on to what is happening across the world. In China, for example, on an application like Alipay or WeChat Pay, you can spend at least the average time spent on this application is about 12 hours per day, because you have social media in the same application. You have mobile money in the same application. You can do your payments on the same application. So we are seeing a lot of this technology transform to fit the user style. And that's why I started by saying it's, as mobile operators, you have to think of being a technology company, not just being a mobile operator, because there are other people doing this. So in Kenya, for example, once this app was launched, we saw the average transaction volume go to about 2 trillion shillings, Kenya shillings, which is about a couple of $1 million. And this was, again, an increment of about 25%. Because of the literacy levels. It's very easy to use. You can pay using your fingerprint. So if you show the rural community how to connect and make a payment, they don't need to know how to read. They can make a payment without any of that barrier of entry. So we're seeing this a lot closer home, and of course Safaricom has extended this to about 8 other countries using Vodacom, and we're seeing the impact of mobile money, even as he mentioned, having a bank account. Before we get to everyone having a bank account, mobile money will still play a big factor for a long time in Africa.
Is there a question? Yes.
Oh, yes, thank you. I'm Gabriel from Kaisalicha, but based in Uganda, which is basically within the region, East Africa. There's one thing I wanted basically to possibly give us highlight or for the telecoms to think about, is that, you see, we're talking about the mobile connected, making everybody to be connected to be able to do mobile money. But the women, the rural women, they are issues, they have cultural issues where their husbands may not allow them to even hold that smartphone you're talking about. How do you then empower them to continue being in the mobile e-commerce section without owning a phone? Because I would borrow the concept from India, the UPI. Can you empower them to have a pay ID, which they can use whenever they go and do a transaction without owning a mobile device? Because all we're talking about is own a mobile device, own a mobile device. But everybody who knows Africa, there are lots of small groups, we call them village savings or circles, that money never sees a bank. And it will not see even a mobile money space. But you can empower them, because when that system is allowed, I can have my pay ID, I walk to the group chairperson and give them my money, then they can deposit it and it will sit on my wallet. That way, we are going to see a revolution almost similar to India without going through the infrastructure development and all that into the plan. Thank you. Exactly. Which is, for example, if we are saying we are one group, can one phone serve us in this community? But I have my pay ID. When I walk into that, this is our group, I can be able to do my transactions with that phone and walk away as, yes, exactly. Thank you.
So notice how I've gotten up because we've spoken about women and I'm very excited. Women empowerment. So I will have you take that, but I just want to talk about like how, you see, if we don't, yes, we are pushing towards digital transformation, but if we don't move, which is what also Honorable Dr. Khalid said, if we don't actually move people along, it's what he stated, all our efforts are quite wasteful, right? One of the areas where we really need to pay attention to, and I know this is a deviation, but I would gladly just change this into that, is how do we address women empowerment? How do we address challenges? Because you have to realize women are more, right? And women drive economies. How do we address that part? He's spoken about maybe shared platforms. I think that is a brilliant idea, but we have to launch women empowerment initiative and a lot of educational initiative to make sure that we address the challenge that we have, which is completely separate topic for women, so that they are part of this technological advancement. And we have to get to women from when they are young, and we have to get to men from when they were young, so that men and women in schools actually understand how important, the importance of women empowerment. And we have to do this from when they're young. We have to do it now with older generation, through education, through programs where we incentivize women and men to empower women. Now back to technology, and I'll take this to Haider.
Okay, so I think that's a very good idea, but I will respond to your advice in two ways. First of all, we already have that scenario here in Tanzania. For example, I think all MNOs, including Tigo Pesa. So we are working with the so-called TASAF. I think for Tanzanians, they know what is TASAF. So TASAF is Tanzania's Social Action Fund, whereby there's some provision of money to the people who are like extremely poor by the government. So we work with them, and for the recipient, for the beneficiaries, they do not have to own a phone for them to be able to receive the money. So there's a technology that we're doing, sort of a payment ID, but they now need to go to an agent so that they can get the money. So they do not need to have a phone to do that. But as Mr. Chandaras, what we are saying here, the mobile financial services here right now is primarily being dominated by cash in, cash out. Cash in, cash out is just a very basic service. So if now we do not allow these guys to have phones, that means we are stopping them to do what they want them to be doing in terms of technological advancement in financial services. So we're going to be limiting them to do a lot of things. For example, in terms of how we empower women, I know for in Tanzania, most of the small business people are women. Like, as you say, you call Mama Mboga in Kenya, here we call Mama Ntilie. One of the difficult things was for them to be onboarded to have merchant numbers. So, for example, for Tigo, we have specifically come up with an initiative that we make their onboarding process to be very smooth. They do not have to have a lot of documents. They only need to have NIDA ID, the national ID, for them to be onboarded so that they can be digitally and financially included. So I think that's a very good idea, but then we need to give a room for them to explore technology, which means we still need to have a network infrastructure. They still need to have phones, as my colleagues have just said here. Right now, there's device financing. They do not have to have 1 million shilling for them to have a smartphone. For example, for Tigo, they only need to be paying 1,000 a day yeah, for them to be able to own a smartphone. So I think that's a good idea, but we need to empower them more than that. Thanks.
Just to reiterate, maybe we need to take a different approach, but his point is quite valid in that if we don't empower women, and that means we have to address the women empowerment issue in on itself, maybe not necessarily technology, but that was a great idea. In the interim, we can have shared platforms, but if we don't empower women, we won't move that along. So it's very important that we do this simultaneously. Now, I like that people have started asking questions. Do you have any other question, comment? I think we can just organically move into that and then we'll bounce back to what we need to talk about. Any other comment or question?
I don't have a question per se, but it's just a comment. As the Honorable Halid said, is that among us, there are also policymakers. So I think the whole idea of including women or inclusion to among women, just to both in digital and financial inclusion, like allow women to own phones and operate them. I think it goes down to the policy making. Maybe if a government has specific policies that address that or promote that inclusion, will be have some reservation, because at the end of the day, we are regulated by the same varied government. So I think maybe it's food for thought on how the government can policies.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think you have mentioned probably one of the best way to tackle it, which is through policy and other initiatives. Thank you so much. Any other questions, comments are really, really welcomed. Someone? Yes, Yvonne?
Hi, everyone. I'm Yvonne Mashuda, yes, from Tigo Business and Wholesale. Just to contribute further from what I mean, my fellow contributors said, I think it is good to do women empowerment, but also to consider this thing of cybersecurity, especially for women and children. Nowadays, children are growing up, they're posting things like, you don't even imagine, and they don't even think of the effects, the impacts when they grow up. So I think apart from the policy making, it is something that we should all consider, that we need to protect this society, this community, when they're growing up, just to make sure they have a good ownership of these devices, especially when they're using it in terms of digitalization, what to post in the social medias, how to use them, what are the impacts, and the general education, just to protect them. I think that's the comment coming from my side. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Yvonne. Any other comment, concern, question? Yes, I like this. Let's have more of that. Please think.
Okay, my name is I'm from Harotel. But first I agree with one idea from the speaker and some participant here. But I think that's we want to increase the number of smartphones. This means that we need to have the citizen, the person, see the profits that the smartphone will bring to their life. I see that we can do by make the enterprise. First, maybe by education, by entertainment, by e-commerce, many things. We got many profit for their life. By education, anything, that I think that's which is you see that in Africa, for example, using for mobile money or for calling the citizen on way, they have usually using USSD protocol. Onto they have smartphone because they not see any benefit. We not broadcast information for them. If they change to using that application, will be very it's very give them the more convenient, more comfortable to use it. They need to change their behavior. I think that from many company, many partners here, we can build the enterprise that will show to the citizen the profit to using smartphone. That's okay. That's my comment.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right in that we need to do more to convince the people to use smartphones, to use data. And it's very important that we partner with content providers specifically for entertainment purposes, and even things like e-learning, digital e-learning over and above e-commerce, and a lot more other things that we can do to convince the people why they need this, and to get them on financial inclusion and on mobile money platforms, and to be a part of this this economy. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for that invaluable insight. Anything else? Comment, concern? Manish, hello, karibu. Anything? Anyone? Quiet. I was very tempted to call on Zahid, but I will not do that to you. So I like the sort of the organic movement of this conversation, and I would really like for us to stay there and not move onto IoT. IoT is fancy, but I think it's still quite far removed from East and Central Africa. So if you have any comments in that space, anyone? Yeah. Yes. So Rakesh, if you could for now build on the last one.
This social change is one of the something very personal to me and to the organization I serve, because we feel technologies are not just to do commercial benefits, but also to bring the social change, which we all are struggling. I'll give you some examples that when we do small things, which possibly commercially may not be benefit, but then it brings a lot of good impact in the social life. The first time when we installed a small pole in a village, which didn't have the electricity, by the way, it was in Uganda, we put a street pole of 10 meters, put a lamp on it with the solar, we put a Wi-Fi on it, and we created a small kiosk who can do mobile money and things. The only good impact that gave to society, the real communities around, was a lamp after 6 p.m. that they could continue having the social life. They started relating that lamp, which has come to their life through the mobile operator and the mobile money, and they started believing into the system which it comes. We took that model and we created a small kiosk, which is a kiosk standard with the wheel that you can take home, and in the morning you bring it in. It had the solar panels on it. It had the mobile chargers, so that the community around the village, they don't have to have source of electricity, because it was still a luxury in country like South Sudan we operate. So now all the villagers have a place where they can go and charge the mobile phone, and they can buy. And these will be the source of all taking the fancy services like mobile money, subsidizing, creating a bank account, because we need to have a point of presence for that. And this is how we have started creating. And it is coming through the social way of creating it. All these efforts that we have put, like in Uganda, we took some of the teachers in the villages who went and trained the people. 60 to 70% of the force behind it were women. These 60% kiosks that are in South Sudan, which are being run, managed on daily basis, are behind that is women, because we know once you touch a woman, you touch a house, you touch a home, not an individual who can only keep the information to personalize. That kiosk concept, when we took it to one of the West African country, they said we have a big challenge of a health system, because firstly, we don't have national security and things and all. How do we do this? We expanded that kiosk to become 10 by 10 feet, and we brought the telemedicine in the same. Similarly, they said, mobile money is not something that people will adopt so fast. Can we create some kind of a teaching place so that telecenter, we call it, now helps to educate people, the people, those who have left or dropped out from these universities, and a lot of people who have started getting associated with this cause. And the moment they get associated, that means they have already bought the concept and they will take it to the homes and the other people. So this turnaround of stuff, yes, it's helpful. The only last thing which I like to say, use technology. The social change does not come from technology. It comes from the adoption. And it also comes how you apply that to societies. All of us have similar background. And I believe the common thinking with all the blessings you said, the policy making and all, it really helps. But then it has to come from all of us as a stakeholder to say how we apply for the social change. And that's how I believe can come in.
Isn't that just something quite fascinating? Kiosk for power. So is there anyone else who've done something quite transformative in terms of enablement and connecting the unconnected, even in the audience? It doesn't have to be the panelists.
I think I will add on what a friend from Halosel has just said, which is he raised a very important point that we do a lot in terms of having network infrastructure, having accessibility to the device financing. But then the important point is people should have a reason for them to own smartphones. Yeah, so it's not, that doesn't have to be a fancy thing, like you have a network and then I have a mobile phone. At the end of the day, specifically for these marginalized people, they'll ask themselves, why do they have to own a smartphone? So for Tigo Pesa, for example, we have done a lot in that space. So in Tanzania, it is believed that based on the data from the Bureau of Statistics, more than 64% of all households in Tanzania are involved in different types of agriculture. That means, and that's the agriculture sector is the sector that employs a lot of people in rural areas. So for Tigo Pesa, we have come up with something which we call Tigo Kilimo. Because of these farmers, they sell their produces to different off-takers. So we have been partnering with different off-takers. For the part of mainland, we are partnering with different AMCOs right now. And we are facilitating the payments for the farmers once they sell produces. For example, in Zanzibar here, we have partnered with Zanzibar State Trading Corporation, which is an exclusive buyer of cloves. So in Zanzibar, the main cash crop is cloves. So we are facilitating payments for the cloves farmers. So once they sell their cloves to ZSTC, they receive their payments using Tigo Pesa. So you see, this can be a reason, like as a farmer, I need to own a phone because when I sell my produces, then I receive my money using mobile financial services, which require them to be having a phone. But on top of that, because for the farmers, harvesting is just one part, but there's another important part, which is preparation of farms, which needs fertilizers, they need pesticides, they need seeds. So we have also partnered with different agri-input suppliers for these farmers to be able to get those kind of agri-input using just their mobile phones. So at least with that case, for these farmers, they see that they have a reason for them to be owning a smartphone because it is 100% connected to their daily lives. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's just brilliant. Thank you so much for that.
So the comment online is, when mobile phones technology was first introduced to us, SIM cards costed more than the handsets. The business model changed. Now the SIM cards are cheap/free and smart handsets are expensive. So we appeal the policymakers and NNOs to address the cost handsets to make it available to our communities to access the services.
All right. Thank you. We are taking that on. We have taken that on. We are taking it on. We are partnering with people who can actually deliver devices at a much affordable rate. One partnership we're working on right now is with CMI China Mobile, who's sitting next to me. Because as they've stated earlier, they actually have a smartphone that's as cheap as $32. It's an actual smartphone, big, maybe 2 cameras, Yeah. So I fancy. So so quite fancy. Just to make sure we can connect people, but also connect people in a way that it works for them, in a way that's actually smart. So it's something that we are addressing. We've addressed for quite some time. We started with a feature phone, which we then realized it didn't do much. Then we've moved to actual smartphones that are just affordable. Haidari also mentioned that we have a device financing platform right now, which if you can get a device from us, you only pay 1,000 and we give you a device for free. And every day with that 1,000, it's not just for device, you actually get content. So you get connectivity, you get mobile data and mobile voice. So we are making sure that you can extract value from this platform, but we can also connect you very affordably. Thank you so much for that. Now, I know you have a comment or a question.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to add on your comment whereby you, I'm from Airtel. You mentioned that why should people use smartphone? I think there are so many reasons that we can give people to use smartphone. It's just not on agriculture. At the moment, you see there's a rise of so many informal sectors of doing their business online on Instagram and other OTT platform. So with affordable smartphone, let's say the ones that are produced by China Mobile, it will really enable that digital economy participation, which will increase the circulation of revenues from that sector, and that will increase even the bankable community. So it's a win-win situation for everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you. Any other question, comment before we wrap up? All right, now we were supposed to talk about IoT and how 5G has enabled us, but we haven't done anything on IoT. We can do fancy things with IoT, especially with agriculture and robotics, and manipulate it so that you have higher yields. And that would have been a very good conversation. But I'm happy with how this conversation went. We actually talked about the marginalized community, and we really stayed there, and which is very rare. Most panels talk about big things and big technology, and then we actually forget that if we don't connect these people who are the mass, we actually don't move forward. So I am very, very grateful that we stayed there. I'm also very grateful for all the insights that you have shared and my panelists here have shared. So before we wrap up, maybe just a quick key takeaway from each of my panelists. Maybe 30 seconds, what you'd like to say or what you'd like to advise, and how we move forward to ensure we actually do close advise. How do we actually close the gap? You can pick anything, either power, devices, whatever it is, and please try not to pick what someone else has already done. I'll start with you, Kevin.
Thank you. It's been an interesting conversation. I think my point of focus would be on especially reaching out to the marginalized. I really like the fact that policymakers, governments are already taking this initiative. In Kenya, it started as Universal Access Fund, where every operator contributes a certain amount every year. Then that is put into a pool that actually builds base stations into the low marginalized area. So once you have the infrastructure, then you go into the digital inclusion. And once you have that, then you can speak of unified access. I think that's something I'm very passionate on, both in Kenya and also in Africa. We believe that once you have everyone connected to a smartphone, then you can start seeing real usage and real meaning of that smartphone. Just to add on to the point made about the reasons why you use a smartphone, a study made recently showed that once you give someone a smartphone, about 75% of the times they use the smartphone for social media. But if they stay with that smartphone long enough, then they start using that phone for actually good. Then you start seeing they're learning something. They start seeing they actually want to to connect to a business somewhere or be a distributor somewhere. Before you know it, that phone that was initially just as a means of connecting, socializing, doing TikTok videos, consuming, you then start producing. And that's where we see Africa growing, especially with a very young population, vibrant population. I think the average age in Africa is now 20 years old. And in 2050, they say the population will double. So you can imagine the amount of innovation that can come from Africa if the young generation start using the smartphone as producers, not as consumers. And that's a vision I have for Africa. Thank you.
Yeah, what I feel is connectivity is important, and the benchmark is, let us be realistic, is 60 to 70%, and then 70% population in Africa we will have access to 4G, 5G networks. That's the benchmark. Second, the most important is affordability. We have a use case like in India, where like with 4G, 5G, seamless connectivity with unlimited data, operators are still profitable at $4 to $5 RPO a month. Once that is there, in low-income countries, be it in Africa, be it in Southeast Asia, the more use cases will definitely come. Yes, initially 4 or 5 months, TikTok's videos will increase in that countries or other stuff will, but down the line in 1 or 2 years, you will have more use cases. Like you talk about India today. Beyond connectivity today, e-learning space, we have more than 70 million students, 70 million. Those are learning through these digital platforms. That's beyond any university. You bring Harvards of the world, Ivies of the world, institutes of the world. They can, at max, the kind of revolution they can bring will not touch more than 2% population. With digital inclusion, with technology and that kind of connectivity, what I feel is the real game will start. 70% connectivity, $4 to $5 affordability, then game will start. That is my closing note. Thank you.
Sorry, there was a use case I was looking for. That did not work to my favor. Haider, over to you.
So my closing remark will be, or rather my last concern will be on partnerships. It's difficult for only one industry, for example, telecom industry, for us as MNOs to work towards helping people. So partnerships are vital. These people need to get different services, and MNOs, just ourselves, we will not be able to do that everything, which means now if we want to do, maybe we want to get the access to renewable energy to the people, that means we need to have a partnership with the renewable energy. We need to have a partnership with insurance companies so that we can have the insurance services accessible by these customers, and so many services. So I'll still insist on partnerships, because by partnership is where that we can empower more people, we can provide more services which are going to be so beneficial to the people.
I think enough has been added already by my able friends. However, something what we do on daily basis is to make sure that the ecosystem should prevail. That is inclusive of partners, inclusive of other stuff. I always believe that you cannot have a fixed model that you are doing in Nairobi and then you go to Kisumu and then you go to a bush area, which means when we are trying to help the local community, we have to make sure that they are the stakeholder. Not only in understanding that the technology that we are taking is going to suit them and it is affordable and things and all, but they are also some kind of a decision maker, what is required by them. So the ecosystem that we should build should include them, and that is what I call it final and full inclusion, so that they are part of all the benefits that we like to take and they become the consumer as well. Okay.
So there you have it. Thank you so much, our lovely panelists. But our key takeaway for me is partnership. We have to address all issues. Yes, we can come up with very effective ways to ensure that we give people reasons to use connectivity. like e-learning, e-commerce, and we can do it together. But most importantly, also, just let me repeat myself, is we have to do it together. I think everyone in this room, if we take it upon ourselves and leave today and say, maybe I'll just do one initiative that addresses, let's say, power or addresses connectivity. This is how we actually move forward and move together. And we are very open to these partnerships. So please, if you have any ideas where you think we can actually reach the unconnected and the marginalized and we can empower them, please do reach out. But let us think, how do we solve their problem as providers, not just the big problems? They are actually the biggest problem. If we solve that, we empower them, we empower our economy, we empower the nation. So asanteni sana, you have been brilliant. My panelists, you've been great. If you can stay behind it so that we take a photo and get our pretty on. Thank you so much.